I'm recording, so whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Oh. Are you gonna count us down?
I'm the director here. Okay. 1, 2, 3. It's morphin' time! Lettering. Not even lettering. Letter set? Letter something. I don't know, something with lettering. There's a word for the type of art that is, there's kerning. Kerning is part of it. Font. Spacing. Anyway, this is part of what I'm working on today, which is it's one smaller component of the cover recreation that I talked about last time that I thought would be easier and quicker to do, and it's not easier or quicker to do, but I'm doing it! So I'm waiting for a phone call from a client that should come in less than a half hour. I was supposed to have this phone call yesterday, got canceled. I was happy because I didn't have to have it yesterday, but now I have to have it today, and so I'm less happy today. Why? I don't like being on the phone. I'm not even a huge fan of being on the phone with friends and family. If someone like my mom or my father who live on the other side of the country and I talk to every couple weeks, that makes sense. But if I haven't talked to a friend on the phone in a very long time, it's texting, hey, I'll see you there, or Facebook, look at this link, that kind of thing, which may be good, maybe bad, whatever. But with clients especially, I don't like being on the phone because usually they want to go on and on about their projects, they're excited about it, understandable. But instead of an email that has all the details I need that I could read in like a minute, I have a 15-20 minute conversation that I'm not being paid for, and there's other things I could do, and I'm a big grumpy bottom. But I need to have this conversation. It's a corporate client. It's not a big job, but it should pay reasonably well. And we were supposed to have it yesterday. They canceled it today, so I'm gonna have it now. And leading up to it, I'm just like, I don't want to get into a thing and then get a phone call. And I've made myself little notes because I don't know. I know it's some sort of comic strip for like a newsletter, but I don't know all the details. So I have like a few invoices to similar jobs that I've done open to give myself like crib notes on what I should charge. And it reminds me of when I was in middle school and I would want to call somebody, girl or boy, and I'd have like a list of talking points because I was worried that we wouldn't have anything to talk about. And so it's similar to that where I'm giving myself cheat notes, because when I'm put on the spot like that, it's one of the things about being freelance, especially for me, is I'm often doing completely different jobs from job to job, and sometimes it's a job I've never technically done, and so it's like, okay, well, I've done comic strips, but maybe I need to design the characters this time, maybe I don't, maybe I need to do the lettering, maybe I don't, is it a recurring thing, is it not, so there's all these variables, and that's assuming it's something like a comic strip, which I have done before. Sometimes it's something I've never done, and I'm just kind of like guessing what I think, how long it'll take me and stuff, and that's why I prefer to have the email, because I could really sit down and think about it. Now, I could always say, I'll get back to you with a price, which might be what I do, but there's always questions and like ballparking, well, can you give me a rough idea of the budget, a rough idea of the time frame and things like that, and so that's why I'm not a big fan of doing the phone call thing, but it's happening in 20 minutes, so in order to pass the time, take my mind off it, and still be productive without getting into a big project, I'm gonna do a 15-minute sketch, and done. The call should be coming in any second, and I finished. I'll show you. I did this sort of jungle warrior woman, and I'm not especially good at drawing the ladies. I mean, I draw female characters all the time, but sort of the good girl or the bad girl or the hot girl, and this is, far from perfect, but I figured what better way to practice than do a 15-minute sketch where I don't have a lot of time to obsess over the details, and now arguably I made her a little bit more fierce than what the typical hot superhero girl is, but that's not really where my interest lies in doing those sort of characters, so I'm not that terribly worried about it. I'm happy with sort of the rough composition I did, and I threw in a little bit of color, and I got it done pretty quick. I did it a different way than I normally do, where I started, let me show you, I started with this layer, which is normally how I do my sort of watercolor style when I do my kaiju pictures. Then I did this layer on top, then I did this layer, and I still had a little bit of time left, so I went back in and put some color, and did a little background, and then I dropped out this layer, and then I dropped out this layer, and there you have it. So anyway, that was productive. I was going to make burritos for dinner, but I realized I needed some rice and cheese. Well, I needed rice, and I didn't have my favorite kind of cheese to use. Told Q, who I'd previously mentioned we were gonna have burritos, and I said, hey, how hungry are you? Because I'm gonna need you at the store, and blah, 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 and it's gonna take longer than I thought. And she's like, go to Taco Bell. I'm hungry, but I also want burritos. So I'm going to Taco Bell. Once again, the lesson we learn is being ill-prepared and lazy rewards you with fast food. Well, I'm coming to you with a bit of a bummer on my face. This is a, whatever. Why am I a bummer face? Well, today I got, okay, I'll start with the good news. I got my funding from Kickstarter, came through. It had been, like I said, I got a notification, hey, you've been funded, your money's coming. It came through. It actually didn't even come through today. It came through 2 days ago, 3 days ago, but I realized it was the day that my mom left and I didn't see it. And I only got a notification that my money would be coming. I never got a notification that it had come. So I just happened to be checking my bank account statements, and there was like an extra $2,000. And I'm like, oh, I guess my Kickstarter money came. So there's that. So that's good. That's the good. The other, what starts as good and becomes bad is I got my final test print copy of the horror, which I anticipated being perfect and print ready. And now that I have the money, I literally was like, awesome, I'm just gonna go for it. But I started looking at the cover, and I doubt this will show up in this bad lighting and on this camera, but this is the original test copy as well as the second test copy. Has this sort of darker color. There's sort of a purplish hue because I'd put a tint over the whole thing when I was done. This is the new one, which doesn't have that. I don't know why. I didn't, for the new copy, I only swapped out one page. I did not swap out the art for the cover whatsoever, so it should not have changed. And again, I know it's probably hard to see. Yeah, I doubt you could even tell, but this one is lighter than this one. Not just lighter color, but also a slightly different tint. Now, it's not the end of the world. It still looks fine, and it was sort of a last-minute touch I had put when I was done with the cover art. But it's what I wanted, it's what I intended, and I noticed also on the back, it's similarly not as dark as it should be. The back doesn't bother me as much as the front, but I was debating whether or not to go forward with it, because it's the kind of thing that only I would notice. And I was sort of leaning towards putting them out, at least making, 50, 100 copies to fulfill my Kickstarter people and do a few extra, because I really want to be on schedule, and I, don't want to delay for my own little artistic noodling that may or may not have come, and it might have just been a printing error or whatever. So I was kind of like, I should probably just print them. But I decided to flip through, and I wanted to double check that that page that I corrected was correct. And it is. And it was the issue was that it wasn't full bleed. This is the page. And if I square it up, you can see it's full bleed and everything on the bottom. It worked perfectly. Full bleed, again, meaning that it prints to the edge of the paper and then is cut. So I thought I was okay with the exception of the color thing, which was more of an opinion than anything else. But I started flipping through, and I noticed that, like, this page had a little bit of an edge on the bottom. So it wasn't 100% full bleed, which I was like, oh, I guess I never worried about that, and it kind of is the edge of the page, so no big deal. But I was looking at the page next to it, and it looked kind of small, like it wasn't really filling up the space properly. And then I looked a little closer, and I saw how his foot is falling off the edge. It's not a line where I decided to make that the cut, it's just not printed. And I looked at the issue, the printing, the second printing, where I had supposedly corrected everything, and it was a mistake there too. And I don't know what was going on in my brain, but the second printing was, I corrected all these issues supposedly from the first printing. And okay, but what I did was I actually made it worse in some cases, because this is the first printing, so you can see the Kablam ad, and that page I was just showing you. Okay, so here's the guy, the explosion, the way I had it. Now, obviously this is subjective. You might say, oh, the other way's fine, and that's how, but this was my intention, was to have it go to the edge here, and it cuts off his foot, and there's no line, that's the edge of the page there. And as you can see also, it fills up most of the page. There's a little bit of a gutter on the bottom, like an even smaller one on top. But that same page in both the second and now third test printing, sorry, I should have had this a little bit smoothlier already. Smoothlier. Okay, same page, that's where it's cut off, and when I show you the whole thing, there's a huge gutter on top and even bigger one on the bottom, so that it's a lot of negative space I did not intend. That's my fault. I'm not 100% sure what the problem is. Clearly that's what happened with that one page that I noticed. And I'm annoyed at myself, not that I made the mistake, because when I was correcting it, it was for where the pages meet, and there were things that needed to be fixed. And I think what happened is, because between the first and second printing, I re-uploaded every single page, even the ones that I didn't adjust, just to make sure everything was corrected. And then for the newer one, I just uploaded the one page that I noticed the difference. But somehow when I corrected them in between the first and second printing, I must have shrunk some of the pages to make them not butt up against each other, but then some of them I didn't add a borderline or something. I have to go back and look at my files, but I'm thinking it's my fault. And it's an easy mistake to make. It's not an honest mistake to make. It's all printing stuff too, because it looks okay on my screen, but when it comes out printed, it doesn't look okay. And that's why I started doing these test copies way before the Kickstarter even funded. But now I've hit the point where I'm ready to go with the Kickstarter. I have the money. I should start printing because people are going to be expecting them. And this is where I wanted to be ready to go. And in theory, I was. I had my final issue, and I was like, perfect, perfect, perfect. But because of this, I risk falling behind. Now, luckily, I know now to get one issue, I could get a turnaround in about a week-ish. But this means that tomorrow I'm going to have to go through all the pages again, double-check all the print stuff, figure out what I did wrong, re-upload them, and put the order in again tomorrow, as opposed to putting in an order, print 100 copies, 200 copies, whatever, I was going to do. And where I get annoyed at myself isn't the mistake I made between the first and second printing, but the second and third. Because I looked at the second issue, flipped through it, and seemingly only saw one mistake. And I don't know how I missed these other mistakes. And some of them are small mistakes, like I didn't color in a guy's collar on one page. That's something I'd let slide. It's a mistake. It happens. Nobody probably noticed. But since I have to resize the page anyway, now, of course, I'm going to go color in the collar, So it's a thing where I'm going to give myself work because I'm doing it. But I don't know what was going on with my head that day, because I certainly wasn't not paying attention. I certainly went through every page and looked at it, but I just had some disconnect where the bigger gutters and the missing panel board, like it just was like, oh, I guess that's fine. I just assumed it was okay because I was focusing so much on the middle of the book where the art meets. I was so concerned with this area that I guess I wasn't paying attention to the outside border. That's all I could think. And then I just happened to catch that one page, which is even weirder that I caught one page but not the other 5. So anyway, tomorrow, instead of being a great, hey, I put the prints in, the printing order in, it's going to be, I got to quick make some corrections, send another sample issue, and in theory, I would just like order them, but I'm so nervous now that it's going to be a mistake again that I'm getting a 4th round of samples. So this just further proves that I was correct to be getting these samples early, all along. Anyway, my button order's in, those should be coming in. Things are still okay, I'm just nervous about the timeline. I think I'll be okay. I'm not going to be issuing any Kickstarter notifications or anything until I get the next... If I get the next sample back in, it's fine. I should be fine. If I get the next sample in, it's not fine. I might tell my backers, hey, it might be like a week late or whatever, which I don't want to do, but communication is better than not communication. Yeah. So actually, in this light, you could see the color difference better. This is the second, and first print, and this is the newer one. And on the back, you could see as well how it's darker here. You can see it in her jacket and you can see it on her face. All the cats are very interested. And on the back it bothers me a little bit less. Oh my gosh, all the cats really... Okay, it's a cat party. And don't hiss, everybody's cool, everybody's cool. Everybody's cool. Friday morning, I'm about to eat the last little bit of Apple Jacks I have. I've got a Uzumaki kitty who is very interested in what I'm saying about Apple Jacks. I think it's just the way I say Apple Jacks. She loves it. She must come from an Apple Jack farm. Anyway, I am a little bit more positive today than I was yesterday. I still need to correct those pages. I haven't done that yet. I've been up for a short period of time. But I did get I sent an email to Kablam last night about the color discrepancies on the cover. To which the response was, oh, well, I see that you did make a change to the files. You changed page 16. But if you want to send me the images, I'll take a look. And I wrote back and said, yes, I did change page 16 only, which was a interior gray page, and I'm talking about the color on the cover. I don't see why that would affect it. And they were like, yeah, okay, let me take a look at the picture. And then I said, well, I can't upload a picture to this messenger system yet, because the way they have it is you can't email them directly. When you get emails from them, they're like, do not respond, use the messaging system. So I did, but there's no add an attachment or show a photo or anything like that. So anyway, I got a direct email. Nice. So I sent them the photos just now, so hopefully we'll get that cleared up. And honestly, if they're like, oh, it's just a slight colored print variation, I could live with that, because their prices are cheaper than anybody else's, so there's not a whole lot I could do. I mainly want to find out why it changed. If it's something I somehow did, which I don't see how it is, and if not, why. I just want to have the information to make a better informed decision. But that's moving along, and they're being quite responsive and quick about it, so I like that. The other thing is I got an email from Half Price Buttons where I get my pins done, and my order is printed and it is shipped this morning, so I should get it within the next 5 days, so that's good. So yeah, progress on that, and I guess I should continue with my day. So after dinner, it was still light out, decided to go for a walk. I've been neglecting my exercise lately, and so I was chatting with my mom on Facebook on my phone as I was walking, which is crazy technology still. I mean, I'm making a video right now, this all is amazing. And so, God, I'm getting eaten alive, is my point. I walked around the park, and I was walking back the street, and I decided to go through the park, the bigger park that I sometimes walk through. Right now, I'm in that area that I always talk about liking with the shadows, and it's like every bug, like little gnats, mosquitoes, I'm gonna go home and have bites all over. It's terrible. I want to run, but I'm tired, and I don't have a very good knee for running. But it's stop. Went out for a walk tonight. It's right on the verge of getting dark again, and apparently it's one of those big trash days, which I haven't seen for quite a while. A lot of piles. Haven't found anything interesting, but it's inspiring me to walk more and look at these piles. For the most part, it's old couches and drywall and things pulled out of a basement doing a cleaning or remodeling. But every now and then there's a turntable or a box of cassettes or something that look like it might be a toy. And so I keep going on to the next pile, the next pile. Luckily, I'm at a dead end now and I have no choice but to turn around. See stuff like this, and it's like, man, if I had a time machine, I could take this old CRT TV and stereo equipment and go back 20 years and make a fortune. But now, even if it works, it's not worth much. Check it out. It's like an old popcorn machine. If I had like a basement or something, I would totally get that. Oh well, another strikeout. But I got a lot of exercise. Oh, he's excited for me. Nope, you can't see him. So I didn't really find anything, but it was a fun bonus. It encouraged me to get more exercise, which I need, and it got my heart racing, thinking I was gonna find some good junk, as my father would say, or he'd say, good junk. My grandfather would more say that it was garbage picking. When I ran into a family looking through, referred to it as, are you checking the piles? Which seemed a little more classy. But I did find, the only thing I came close to finding was that one box that had some Transformers in it, but it was kind of dirty. I had to move a toilet seat to see what was under it. And if they were old toys, I might be willing to grab them and clean them up and deal with the grime. But they were newer toys that I had no personal interest in. Hopefully some kid found them. Yeah, so that's my night. Wow, it's really going now. It's fantastic. I don't know if the camera is picking this up, but I'm riding and it's hot. It's like 80. I hate it, but it should be getting cooler the rest of the day. That's not what I want the camera to pick up. The camera can't pick up temperature. But if you look, there's sort of fluffies. It's sort of like summer snow. Really, it's the plants in the area. It's not just pollen, it's this white hair. Like, can I get it? See this? It's that little white fuzz. There's lots of that, where it looks like fairies live here, or it's summer snow. Well, I kind of look like an anime character right now. But it's cool. Luckily, I don't have hay fever or allergies, or I'd probably be losing my mind right now. But being that I'm lucky enough to have clear sinuses, it's magical and lovely, and it offsets the horrible heat. You see that? Like snow! Like snow! You can see it on the ground better. Look, there's a little dust devil. It's a little summer snow fairy devil twister. Life is beautiful. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Oh my gosh, I think I should come look. I'm being sarcastic, but I am enjoying this quite a bit. I filled up my water bottle right before I left with nice, fresh, cold water. And, yep, that empty holster is where it should be. So I stopped under this overpass to cool down a little bit. There's a little bit of water stream, which should be higher, but the drought, and it kind of... If I imagine I'm in a sewer, I could pretend I'm hanging out with the Ninja Turtles. But in the meantime, I'm just chilling out for a minute. I'm a little more than halfway to San Jose, which is my ultimate destination, which is about an hour ride each way. Normally I would just keep going because I would be hydrating. Since I'm not hydrating, I'm coolifying. This is not art related, but I thought this was a cool little area. See? And while I'm not literally taking reference photos, I might keep this in mind for the future at some point if I need to do something like this. Oh.
Yeah, I think there's someone in there. You see legs. Gotta be so hot.
So kind of like with the heavy garbage day the other day, I went out for my bike ride and there's a street fair. Not really anything I'm particularly interested in, but just a fun thing to walk around unexpectedly. Bought myself a lemon carbonated water, just because. And now I'm heading home. You're in my power. It looks like I'm like an old Chris Lee vampire type. Or I could do it this way, and I'm like looking at William Shatner like, Oh, Captain. Oh, it doesn't quite work. But you know, when they have the light bar and whatever. Anyway, it's Monday, the beginning of a new week, and aside from this weird camouflage lighting pattern I have going on my face, things are okay, but not great. I've been on this awesome streak, and I'm still on an awesome streak, but just a few hiccups are happening now. I'm going to switch to the desk view. Hey, welcome to the desk view. So what's going on? Well, the Kickstarter is funded. My priorities today are to get the PDF of the horror set up so that I can start sending it out immediately, to do the questionnaire for my Kickstarter backers, and to send an update for my Kickstarter backers. Those are the top three things, but I have other things I need to accomplish as well. The PDF, I realize going into it, like, it's great because some people want a digital option, and it doesn't cost me anything other than the time and effort I put into the book. There's no printing cost, so it's sort of easy profit or whatever. But I never put a book together digitally before, I realize. And I've backed other books that I got digitally, and usually they just come as a PDF or that you flip through, or a Dropbox link to a PDF or something like that. But it's just one of those things that, like, it hadn't really occurred to me that I don't really know how to do it. And I'm sure I could figure it out, but it's just I'm not looking forward to the math of it, as I say, the math of it. The other thing is that I got my test print back of the horror, as I said, and I sent it in, and so I have another one coming, but I'm a little bit stressed because if it comes back perfect, then I'll put the order in and I should be basically on schedule. If it doesn't come back perfect, I'm going to be behind schedule, and so I'm going to have to let my backers know that, and I don't want that to happen. And I really did my best to try to be on top of all this, and as much as I tried to be on top of everything, the next time I do a Kickstarter, I'm going to be more done and more on top of it. I'm not, failing by any means, but I wanted everything to go perfect, stress-free, and it's not. It's a little bit stressful. It's a little bit not perfect, but whatever. I was supposed to do Free Comic Book Day. In March, it's now the beginning of May, and in the middle of March, my local comic shop was like, hey, congrats on the Kickstarter. Do you want to come do Free Comic Book Day? And I said, you know what? Yes. I had done it a few times before, and last year I was supposed to do it, but there was an unexpected trip to Hawaii, which if you followed me for a while, you saw me splashing around in the Hawaiian water, whatever body of water that is. I don't know, an ocean, some ocean, and that was great. But it was an unexpected trip that Q won as a contest like thing at work. So I had to be like, sorry, comic store, I didn't know I was going to Hawaii. So this year I'm like, yeah, we have no trips planned, totally good. Only we do have a trip planned. So I had to bail on them again, which I hate. I hate seeming unprofessional. I hate seeming flaky. Luckily, I have a good relationship with the owner. We're like real-life friends, too, so it's not as bad as someone who I don't know at all. But I just talked to her about it yesterday, too, and she's like, oh, we're not going to be able to put you here. We're going to move you to this different spot and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, here's some ideas. And we talked nuts and bolts a little bit. And then this morning, Q was like, Q is my wife, for those that don't know. Q was like, hey, I noticed that you booked you have Free Comic Book Day on the calendar, and we have DragCon, which is this RuPaul's Drag Race convention down south of us, down in, I think it's near LA, San Diego area. It's a few hours south. More than a few hours south. Anyway, I knew we were doing this, and it was booked a while ago. It's kind of an early birthday thing for her. So I checked the calendar. It wasn't on there. I kind of knew it was coming up in a few weeks, whatever, but I was like clear for that day. And basically what had happened is Q didn't put it on the calendar. Now, arguably, I should have known because we've talked about it, and it's right before her birthday and blah, 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 but I have calendar brain, and when I'm booking things, whether it's a social activity or, more importantly, a work activity, if it's not on the calendar, it just, I don't know. Like, oh, is there anything going on this weekend? No, then I could work. Is there anything going on this weekend? No, then I could go to that movie with you, whatever the thing is. So it wasn't on there, and that, for me, was reality, and so I said, yes, I could do Free Comic Book Day. Now Q was like, hey, we have these expensive tickets we bought a while ago. You're probably going to have to cancel, and I did. And luckily, Q is also friends with the owner, and so she's like, yeah, Gaz, it wasn't on the calendar, and he, made a mistake, and I'm like, hey, I made a mistake, and, I apologize profusely, and it's all my fault. I'm a big bag of farts. Anything I could do. I was supposed to bring a table. I'm like, you still want my table? Do you want some prints to give away? Whatever I could do to help make it up. I'm really sorry. And she's like, yeah, well, you're a jerk, but I understand. She's like, but then the one thing she did want to help, she's like, can you recommend another artist to fill in so that we have somebody there doing sketches, selling art, that kind of stuff as part of the festivities? And I said, no. I don't really know any artists, which is, I kind of know that, and I've vaguely talked about it, but it's just so weird to say, because I've always known some artists, and I do know some artists. I know some of you online. I know some artists on the East Coast. I have some caricature art, but in terms of, a comic artist that is local, I know pretty much none. I know nobody that does comics very well. There's one or two people I vaguely sort of know from a convention I met once, but it doesn't have to be a comic book artist. It just has to be somebody that does that style. Prince that could do some sketches, whatever. But the few people I know, I mostly met through this comic shop, so the owner would know them too, and they're probably booked. And then I thought of one guy I met at a convention, but he was also booked, and so I was like, I can't help you. I'm sorry. The one thing you asked me to do to make up for it, and I can't do it. I was like, I might know some cosplayers, and she's like, I got lots of cosplayers. So I was like, so that was a bummer way to start my day. It's all resolved. She's not angry at me, at least not acting angry at me or whatever. The other thing is there's two other shows that I've been trying to book for a while that I haven't been able to. And it's annoying because whenever I try to book a show and it's not easy, I don't understand it. Because if I'm running a show, I want to make money and have a good show. And to do that, you get exhibitors and artists and guests to sign up as early as possible, get everything locked down, sell those tables, fill those entertainment slots. And a lot of shows wait till way longer than I thought they would. And sometimes it's like, well, we're going to see if we can get somebody more famous than you. And like, I understand that might be part of it, but I don't think that's what's going on in these particular cases. One I had a problem with a while back, but I've got it locked down. The other two was Kamikaze, which is the Stan Lee comic convention. And I missed it last year. And it's down in LA, it's far, but I got the book coming out, and I have a friend that lives down there, so I could split a table. So I'm like, all right, maybe I'll try that this year. We could split a table, I could stay at his place, or we could split a hotel room, like the cost will be lower and whatever, and I have a reason to do it. So I wrote them like October of last year, because on the page, it's like vendor tables, sign up here, artist tables, more information to come soon. So I was like, all right, so I waited, and then around December, still nothing. So I emailed them and I'm like, hey, I have been checking the website and it still says, nothing available and I don't want to miss it. I'm like, we'll put you on a list, let you know. Okay. So then today, the artist actually that I was recommending for this comic store that was busy, I was looking at his artist page and it was like, hey, I'm going to be doing Kamikaze this year. Good for me. And I'm like, oh, that is good for you. But then I'm like, well, how come I didn't get a notification? Did I miss it? And I went to their page and it still says information to be determined later, whatever, for artist things. So I just wrote to him and I'm like, how did you book this? Because I've asked them twice, emailed them, and it still says nothing, and I got no, whatever. So I don't know, whatever. It's annoying. I'm happy for him, but I don't understand what is this secret way to register that I'm not finding. The other show, it's the San Jose Toy Show, which I've gone to as a guest, as a guest? Yeah, sure. No, because a guest implies that I'm signing autographs because I'm famous. No, as an attendee. See, I used to work customer service, I used to work Six Flags, so attendees, customers, they're guests. So that's confusing now that I work at cons, where guests are the famous big shots. So anyway, I'm not a famous big shot, and I cannot figure out how to get a table. It's mostly toys, as I've said, but there are a few art tables. I've seen them there, and there are other artists, local artists I've seen at shows, and a lot of the stuff I do art of is the kind of toys they sell. Godzilla, things like that, Power Rangers, things like that, in addition to my own book, The Horror 84, which I may or may not have printed by the time the show comes. Regardless, I was going to give it a shot, and I have a friend, the big dog, who collects toys, and he has a bunch to sell, so we were going to split a table. He sells his toys, I sell my art, and it's a low-risk thing. It's right in town, and months ago, after the last show, they said, hey, for information about the next show, sign up here, and here's the price, and whatever. I sent an email, didn't hear anything. And it said there was 8 to 10 tables left or whatever. Checked back, a month later, still said tables were available, never heard anything. I talked to somebody who does the show, and they're like, oh yeah, you can't book tables that way. People buy huge blocks of tables, and then you have to buy it from them. And I'm like, what? Like, I understand why somebody might buy a block of tables if they're like a retailer, dealer, or whatever, and want to make sure they have what they need. But it doesn't say we're sold out because they're all sold to these things. It's like, we have 8 left. So if there's 8 left, regardless if everybody's bought, how come I can't buy one of those 8, And they didn't contact me and say, sorry, that was a mistake, we're sold. Like, there was just no contact whatsoever from the website. And so the guy I talked to, which I don't want to name, but he runs a semi-local toy store, and he was like, well, if you want a table, talk to me, and I could talk to somebody, and you could buy a table off of one of these people I know that has a bunch of stuff. And I was like, all right. So the big dog knows him better, so he put us together on a Facebook chat and was like, hey, we're interested in splitting a table. Is that something you can still help us with? And he's like, I'll check and get back to you. And we didn't hear anything for a few days. So today I was like, hey, any word? Can we get a table from you or what? And he said something like, oh, yeah, I talked to the guy. You got to call Joe at the shop, and he'll sell you one. And I think he means, I'm not going to say the names, but I think he means the shop that primarily runs the show. But if that's the case, I don't know that guy who runs that shop. I mean, I've been in there once or twice. I'm not even sure which guy is the owner, and And that's the shop I contacted originally that apparently didn't want to sell to me. And I don't take it personally. I don't think they're like, screw you, Gazbot. I think it's more like they're just not organized, or they have a weird organization, or like I said, this whole thing of like, they have it set up on their site like others, buy a table. But really, you got to know the guy and find a thing. And it's like, I don't know. I don't understand these shows that have this weird, bizarre way of getting tables. So there's 2 shows I'm trying to get tables for, not succeeding. And yeah, so my priority today is going to be figure out how to do a PDF. And I have backed some other Kickstarters that have sent me some PDFs, so I'm going to kind of look at them and see how they're set up and try to mimic what they did. And once I get that done, then I'll send out the questionnaire, then I'll send out the update. Because I didn't want to send out the update like, hey, send me the email where you want the PDF, and then they don't get it for 3 days in case I have a problem. I was also hoping I'd have the pins by now so I could put that in the video. Maybe I'll get them later today. Yeah, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. It's not a bad day. I don't mean to say that. Everything's fine, but I've been like, everything's great, super, super good. And today's like, oh, right, it's still life and work, and things don't always go 100% correct. So that's... So I'm looking once again at the downloaded PDF I got as a reward from someone else's Kickstarter, and it was a thing where this wasn't the main book. This was like an add-on thing that I got. It's a book. The book I'm looking at is called Warhead, which is, I think the other one was called Alter Life, which I haven't received yet. And it was in a Dropbox, and I downloaded it, and I'm looking at it now. And it's laid out vertically. I mean, it's pretty simple. You can see, it's got the whole book, and maybe it would look better on like an iPad or something. But I kind of don't like the way it's laid out. Maybe... I'm not a big fan of digital comics. Sorry to those that are. I don't have a problem with other people liking it, but I don't like looking at my comics in this format. I feel we're not quite there yet. There needs to be a different reader or a different piece of hardware to make it work. But I also feel I would prefer it to be laid out 2 pages, side by side, the way a book would be and the way it was intended to be. But I could be totally wrong about that. I haven't done it before. This might be the preferred normal way to do it, because again, I could see how this would work scrolling on an iPad, which is probably, I imagine, how most people look at digital comics, because, I don't know, but if I'm looking at it on a PC, like for myself, looking at it the way I am now, I wish I had 2 pages side by side. And it makes me feel like that's how I should lay mine out. But again, I might be in the minority. So instead of completely mimicking this, I'm going to do a little bit of research. Yeah, I knew my workday was not going to be exciting today. I think I'm going to have a Diet Coke. Okay, so I have the PDF done. I made one just like the one I was showing you where it's a vertical line. Then I made another one where it's still in a vertical line, but it's 2 up. And I was able to get side by side, but I couldn't figure out how to format it more. And it seems like to do anything more fancy, I would have to use InDesign or Illustrator, or basically get a program I don't have and or learn a bunch of stuff I don't know. So considering it was delivered to me in this format by someone and I was fine with it, again, I'm not the target audience for digital, I'm going to offer it to people that got the digital as the vertical and the horizontal. I'll give them both. They could choose. Hopefully one or both will satisfy them. If not, if I get a complaint, I'll reassess at that time. I did find a video how to do it through Photoshop, just how to make a multi-page PDF. I use Photoshop CS3, so that's the video I found. I don't know if it's different for different Photoshops, but I'll put the link below for anyone that cares. And now I'm going to get to work working on my questionnaire, now that I can actually send out the digital copies. Uzi, what do you think we should do? All right, well, I've consulted with my consultant, the Sultan of Stripe, and she doesn't really help. She licks. Here, I'll put my hand at lick. Yeah, that's what she does. She licks. You're good at licking. You're not good at compiling PDFs. Or sending out surveys for Kickstarter, which is what I've started to do. Now that I have the hard PDF built both ways, the way I think I would prefer and the way it seems other people prefer, I sent out the surveys, not to everyone who backed it, but to everyone who got a PDF copy of the comic, which is a few people who that's all they got, a few people who got a physical reward of the print or of the button, but no issue of the comic. Anyone who got a physical issue of the comic, I did not send the survey out to yet because I don't have those yet and I don't want to, I'm just keeping it separate. So the buttons I found out I should have later today. I checked the mail, so that's awesome. So I should have the buttons today. Anybody who just got the comic, I'll be sending that out today or tomorrow, assuming I get basically as soon as I get the responses. Anyone who gets the pin, assuming I get them today, I'll be sending those out in the next day or 2. The prints I still need to go get made, but again, those 3 groups of people who got a digital comic and maybe an add-on, I will be sending out within the next week. Then I'm going to move on to people that get the physical copies of the comic, and I think it's good to keep it separate this way, just to make my life easier and keep less things going on in my head, but also, again, because the fulfillment will sort of go in the order that the surveys go out. So these surveys went out first; they'll be fulfilled first. Then I'll start working on physical copies, and then people who got sketches will come later and later. Yada 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 yada. So good progress on the horror. Things are going. Oh, also another thing that's not going as badly. Well, again, I say things are going badly, but that's just because everything's been so great that a regular day now seems bad. So obviously I'm in a good place. The Kamikaze thing, the artist I knew, I contacted them and said, hey, how did you get your table already? Because all the reasons I just said to you guys. And they're like, oh, that was from last year. I don't update my artist page very often. So I was like, okay, so they don't have their table. Like, I'm still waiting. So excellent. So that's not a problem. And the toy show thing, a friend and I are going to just go to the shop and try to sign up tomorrow. So that might be resolved. So the problems, very first world, super not problems I've been having today have mostly been resolved. And we're back on track for a good time. Go-go's.
Yo, what up, dog? I mean, cat. That's terrible.
Got my button order in today. Well, actually, I got it in yesterday, but I didn't have a chance to pick it up. It was a large button order. It had all the horror pins of the 4 designs that I need for Kickstarter and also other things. And I also re-upped on a bunch of my Godzilla pins and made some new pins of other prints that I hadn't done before. And it was a big box. And sorting. So, like, here's the horror pins, and then here's some newer designs. And then down here, I've started piles for my older designs. There's Star Commander. She's monitoring everything, and she's playing with Uzi. And that is helpful to me, not at all, but this is what I'm doing. And now I'm heading out with my pre-purchased cardstock that I have left over from prints I've done previously. It's a lot of alliteration. Pre-purchased, previously purchased. Anyway, the UPS where I get my prints done does not carry this sort of cardstock often, and therefore I cannot rely upon them to have it. However, I can bring it myself. This is something I've discussed before. I pay for the printing and the time, but not the paper. And it's not a full stack, but I need about 43 to fulfill my requirements. I'm going to do 50 in case there's damages or lost in the mail or that kind of thing. And if I have any extra, I'll make a few other prints that I might need, but it looks pretty close to just what I need right now. Anyway, that's where I'm going. Well, today is Star Wars Day. That's right, May the 4th, 2006. So may the 4th be with you. What have I done? Well, I did a little Luke Skywalker SketchUp 15-minute thing that had its own video, but I'll just quick put up the image here. And the link is below in case you want to watch me draw that stuff. I'm also wearing my Luke Skywalker shirt. It says Rebel. It's done in sort of an 80s style. I love it. I got it from Shirt Punch. I think it was 10 bucks, maybe 12. And came with a free pop of Luke Skywalker from the first movie, the little lightsaber. I don't really collect pops, but I'm such a sucker for Luke, and I wanted the shirt anyway, so it was like free, so that's great. Anyway, now I'm gonna ride my bike to Target and see if they have any Star Wars.
And now we begin our trip down to Los Angeles for DragCon.
Yeah, it felt like it was really passing this by, but it's a respectable drizzle at this point.
It was a long, boring drive, punctuated by terrifying rain. But eventually we made it, and here is the view from our hotel. Tra-la-la. We met up with some friends down there who, after dinner, took us to this cool arcade, which I'm forgetting the name of, but it's a typical barcade, you know, for adult kind of people to play games. There's this awesome Street Fighter mural in back, and it was so exciting that I just had to jump into the action and become part of it. So here you can see, look at me, I'm Street Fighter 7, Gazbot Scream Goes, and I have lots of powers like Scream and Goes. Played a fair amount of track and field, which is an insane game of smacking buttons. I did an excellent job filming that. And they had a Street Fighter 2, some version of Street Fighter 2 that was up on the big screen that I wanted to play, but there was always a huge line, so I did not. Hey, look, more track and field, as I said. I'm a track and field monster. I'm crazy. We also did some off-road, which I thought I was amazing at until I played my friend Kevin, who beat me at everything all night, basically. Oh, in our room was a Wayne Gretzky painting, which was odd since my last name is Gretzky, and it was just for us. It was for us, everybody, special. We got room service the first night, which was expensive, but we figured it would save us some time, and we'd get, like, a nice gourmet thing. It didn't save us time, and it wasn't very good, so it was a waste of money. And this is just the outside of the convention center, which was actually pretty cool. Yes, it was. Into DragCon proper, there was a lot of signage referencing things from the show. Compared to like San Diego, it was small, but it was fairly large. I had more fun than I thought I would. There was a lot of interesting things to see. Q got a lot of photos with various famous drag queens, such as this one right here, and this one right here. Kitty Powers, and the first one was I forget. This was Fifi something or other. She was nice. I'm so good at this. I'm so good at telling you guys what's happening. Here's some. These are gold people pet wigs. That's serious business, guys. It's a wig for your pet. Serious. No joking around. All right, and here's Taxi Lady. She was someone. Oh, here's David Yost, the original Blue Power Ranger, and my favorite thing there. You saw the video in the beginning, and that's where this is from. But the other thing I enjoyed was this.
This is what it looks like at last call at the party.
Hey, wait a minute. It looks bad then.
No.
Oh.
How gorgeous!
That was Will Wheaton of Star Trek and other fame. And then they had a panel on cosplay. So this was Chad Michaels as Harley Quinn and someone else as a Sailor Scout. And that was kind of a cool panel where they basically were just doing cosplay in drag. This was just a down shot. You could see the big crowd starting to filter out. It was like a medium-sized show, but I guess having been to such bigger shows, it really seemed chill and low energy and low-key for us. And here's Q being her fabulous self. This was at the hotel we were staying that had this crazy chair in the lobby, which was pretty cool.
Oh, hey. That's handy. Day 3 in LA, day 2 of DragCon. It begins and we go now.
There's Fifi the second day. She had a totally different thing. She was nice. She's kind of nerdy. She likes Power Rangers. So yeah, I like that.
Hey, what's up? It's me, Gazbot, and I'm here at DragCon in Los Angeles, and this is the Horror Update Production Report number 40?
And here's from the back of the show floor, just, you know, kind of where the autograph lines are and stuff. Most of them were closed. And there's Bob the Drag Queen with Q. Bob won that season, and that is my fault. The picture is awkward because someone else was taking the picture. Kind of like this one, too, where I was just sort of glomming on to the official picture. I think that was Detox? Detox is a Power Rangers villain. And there's Q's little pink head. You could barely see it. She's like in the far distance, but she's a good beacon.
So DragCon is over at 4 o'clock, and before we head home, about 10 minutes away is Little Tokyo, which is supposed to have at least one good toy store called Anime Jungle that we're going to check out.
So I may do a full review of this store, Anime Jungle, but I can sum it up like this. A lot of fun to look at. 3 full stores of anime, tokusatsu, Japanese toys, and cosplay and things like that. Videos, but it was overpriced. It's a little bit of a museum store. You could find a few things that weren't too bad off of retail, but some of it was like just way out of the ballpark. I even had an employee warn me as such when I was looking at prices on something. And so it was a lot of fun to stop there. We did buy a few little things, but definitely do your homework and check the prices. But again, a lot of cool stuff to look at. And it was a fun way to end the show, which was full of drag queens, to end with robots from Japan.
This road has no lines on it. It's huge. See that car going? There's no lane lines for us, and there's no dividing line for the whole thing. But it's like a 5 or 6 lane road. There's also no street lights, barely any signs. There's nothing on either side. Here we are. Good.